Hi, my name is Andrue Hobgood, and this is my crisis communication case study presentation over the GE fraud crisis. In this presentation, we're going to go over some general information of GE. We will go over GE's mission statement. I'm going to talk about what caused the crisis. I'm going to give you a timeline of the crisis, the impact that the crisis had on GE financially, the crisis type, some suggested crisis communication strategies, GE's 3 public statements. We're going to evaluate the crisis, and I'm going to give my recommendations for the company as to what they should do moving forward. Here's some general information about GE. The industry that GE is in is the electrical equipment, appliance, and component manufacturing industry. It is a public company. GE was founded in 1892. It is a global electrical equipment company. Some fast facts about GE are that they have services in over 150 countries. They have been in operation for over 100 years, and they are ranked 21st among Fortune 500 companies, according to Forbes. The mission statement for GE is that we've built a local presence and a strong brand and deep customer relationships in more than 180 countries. GE is proud to serve as partners in growth and development, offering resources and experience, investing in local talent, supply chains, and bringing over other partners along with us. So GE's fraud crisis all started with a report from Harry Marco Polo's. He essentially published a 179-page report on how GE committed accounting fraud. This fraud was said to be bigger than Enron, and they are being accused, GE is being accused of accounting fraud of more than $38 billion, which is over 40% of their market capitalization. Here's the timeline of the GE fraud crisis. Initially, the report is written in January of 2018. GE is investigated by the SEC. In October of 2018, the Department of Justice investigated charges set by the SEC from their investigations. And then in August of 2019, Harry Marco Polo's releases that 179-page report of fraud against GE. Now, on August 15th, 2019, GE addresses the claims by Marco Polo's, in which they deny it. And then on August 16th, 2019, GE stock has its worst day in 11 years after fraud claims. In fact, the stock dropped over 20% that day. Now, this is the financial impact of the Marco Polo's report. As you can see, GE's stock plunged by over 20% on August 15th following the Marco Polo's report. The total loss for the month of August is believed to be due to the fraud accusations. As you can see in the figure, GE's stock is up 9.21% at the end of September, with the stocks being priced at $8.94 on September 30th. Unfortunately, that is not as high as it was on July 24th when the stock itself was priced at $10.68. The crisis type for this particular case study is transgression. Now, transgressions are intentional acts taken by an organization that knowingly place stakeholders or publics at risk or harm. Right. Moving on to our suggested crisis communication strategies. So the first one is acceptance. The definition is claim accepting responsibility for culpability for the crisis. A full apology, simply apologizing for the crisis and accepting the blame. Remediation, a tactic of announcing some form of compensation or help to victims. It could be money, goods, aid, etc. Repentance, a tactic of asking for forgiveness. The organization apologizes for the crisis and asks stakeholders and the general public to forgive its misdeeds. Or it can be accommodative, which is a claim of connecting the organization to the things positively valued by stakeholders and publics. And last, rectification, a tactic of taking corrective actions to prevent a recurrence of crisis in the future. We're going to review public statement number 1, and this is the first one out of the 3 that GE made. It was made on August 15th of 2019, and it was published on GE Newsroom website. So the public statement number 1. So right here we have denial right off the bat, and it says that the claims made by Mr. Marco Polo's are meritless. The company has never met, spoken, or had contact with Mr. Marco Polo's, and we are extremely disappointed that an individual with no direct knowledge of GE would choose to make such serious and unsubstantiated claims. So we have some clarification right there. When they say that they have never met or spoken with Mr. Marco Polo's, they're kind of trying to clarify some things. And right here, they tell us that the company has ended the second quarter with $16.9 billion of industrial cash, excluding the BHGE. They have $12.5 billion of liquidity at GE Capital and access to $35 billion of credit facilities. Now they're trying to kind of downplay this by saying all of that information. We have public statement number 2. It was made on August 15th of 2019 on the CNBC website. Okay, so here we have GE's second public statement, again, out of 3. Here we have GE's Larry Culp on the accounting accusation. He's simply stating that it's market manipulation. He denies it. He denies the accusations. He simply, again, states that the issue was simply market manipulation by Marco Polo's. And he claims to be the victim. He uses victimization here. And he states that Marco Polo's did this for personal profit. So now we are going to talk about GE's third and final public statement. It was made on August 19th, 2019, and they published it to the GE Reports website. For public statement number 3, they used the downplay method. They stated that GE's future liabilities focus on decades and not years, so they were kind of trying to hint that the short-term impacts that this report will have on GE don't really matter because their liabilities focus on decades, and what happens in a couple of years aren't really going to hurt them that much. And they use the excuse method. GE states that they are no longer the controlling owner of the BHGE, which is the Baker Hughes, a GE company. So they don't control that part of GE anymore, and that was where the estimated loss was. So they're trying to kind of say that, we're not responsible for that anymore. So here's an evaluation of, the crisis. We're going to talk about some strengths and some weaknesses. So a couple of the strengths that I had were that, prompt action was taken by the management team. They made a public statement within 5 days. The CEO made a statement the day the accusation was made. They saved their stock. The stock prices did not fall to zero, which is huge. And majority of stockholders kept their share, and that was due to the prompt action of GE's crisis team. Now, some weaknesses were that the denial was made. So Marco Polo's statement was meritless because he had no direct knowledge of GE. GE is a public company. Anybody can do some research on GE and their statements. So maybe he did have some knowledge of GE. They also said that they're no longer the controlling owner of BHGE. Again, they're denying that they were responsible for that. And then my last weakness was that they played the victim role. They simply stated that Marco Polo's partnered with an organization that makes financial gains from GE's losses. So they're they're just trying to be victims here. They're trying to turn it around and make them look better than what Marco Polo's was trying to make them look. And they simply stated that the report was written for author's financial gain. Again, just playing that victim role. So my recommendations to GE to move forward on this issue is a full apology. I suggest putting out an apology statement on the GE website for everyone to access, stockholders, general public, everyone. I would also suggest arranging an interview with a news station such as CNN and having the CEO make a public apology on live TV. And I would also recommend they should remind stockholders of existing positive aspects of the company. And by that I mean send stockholders a document explaining some current assets and the value of those assets. I'd also put this on the company website for maybe people who are wanting to purchase GE stock. I would also send out a public statement showing the yearly projections for the next 5 years. I publish this on the website as well. As much information that we can get out to the public, the better. So again, my name is Andrue Hobgood. This was my crisis communication case study presentation. We went over GE. We went over some general information about GE. We went over GE's mission statement. We talked about what kind of caused this crisis. We went over the timeline of the crisis, the impact that the crisis had on GE financially. We talked about the type of crisis that it was. I gave you my suggested crisis communication strategies. I told you the 3 public statements that GE made. We went over the evaluation of the crisis, and I made my recommendations for the company. This has been my presentation. I hope that GE will not face these kind of accusations again anytime soon.